Most retirement videos are lying to you. And I don't mean slightly off. I mean completely, deliberately misleading. They throw out numbers like $50,000 and say, retire forever. Like that's just a thing that happens. It's not. But here's what $50,000 actually does. And this is the part nobody talks about. It buys you time. Real, genuine, breathable time. 3 years, 4 years, maybe 6 if you play it smart. Time where you're not trapped in a job you hate, not watching your weekdays disappear into a commute that's stealing years off your life. I've got 7 countries today where the math actually works. Every single one passes the test, but every single one also has a hidden trap inside it that most videos conveniently forget to mention. I'm giving you both sides because you deserve the full picture. So without wasting time, let's get into it. Country number 7, Albania. Okay, so let's start at the bottom of the list. And I want to be clear, being number 7 doesn't mean Albania is bad. It just means it's the least complete option. And when you're making a decision this big, you need to understand the difference. Albania. Most people haven't even thought about Albania. It barely shows up in retirement content. And that is honestly part of its charm right now, because the people who have discovered it are keeping pretty quiet about it, and the prices haven't caught up yet. So here's what makes Albania interesting. It sits on the Adriatic and Ionian coasts of southeastern Europe. It's got mountains, beaches, medieval castles, incredible food, and some of the most dramatic scenery you'll find anywhere on the continent. And the cost of living, right now in 2026, is still genuinely low compared to basically every other European country. The city you'd be looking at most seriously is Sarand. It's a coastal town in the south, directly across the water from Corfu. Clear water, palm trees, a real town vibe. Not a tourist trap, but not undeveloped either. You're looking at costs between about $800 and $1,000 a month to live comfortably there. If you go further inland to smaller towns, that number can drop to $700, maybe $850. Now run the math. $50,000 divided by $900 a month, that's roughly 55 months. That's almost 4.5 years. Go a little leaner, find a good apartment, cook at home half the time, you could stretch it to 5.5 years without feeling deprived. And here's something that a lot of people don't know. Americans don't need a visa to stay in Albania for up to 1 year. 1 full year, no paperwork, no applications, no bureaucracy. You just show up. That is genuinely rare for Europe, and it matters. So why is Albania number 7? Because of what it doesn't have yet. There's no structured long-term retirement visa system. There are no formal retiree programs, no pensioner discounts, no streamlined residency path built for people in your exact situation. The country is developing fast, and that's exciting in some ways, but it also means the infrastructure, the healthcare system, and the legal framework for long-term foreign residents is still being built in real time. The healthcare situation especially. It's basic. It's functional for everyday things, but if you have a serious condition or if something unexpected happens, you're going to be looking at traveling to Greece or somewhere else for real treatment. That's not a deal breaker for everyone, but it's something you have to factor in. And then there's Tirana, the capital. If you end up gravitating toward the capital because you want more city amenities, more international restaurants, more of a social scene, the prices there have been climbing quickly. The affordability that makes Albania attractive exists mostly outside Tirana. Inside it, the math starts to look more like other European cities. Albania is cheap. Right now, genuinely cheap. But it's not a complete long-term system yet. It's a place for someone who's comfortable figuring things out as they go. Someone who wants something raw and real and under the radar. If that's you, it might be perfect. If you want more structure, keep watching. Country number 6, Georgia. From southeastern Europe, let's move east. All the way east, actually, to the Caucasus region, to a country that has somehow become one of the most talked about destinations for digital nomads and early retirees over the last few years. Georgia. The country, not the state. And the first thing you need to know about Georgia is the visa situation, because it's almost unbelievably generous. Americans can stay in Georgia for 365 days, a full year, with absolutely zero visa required. No application, no fee, no registration. You just land at the airport in Tbilisi, walk through customs, and you have 365 days to figure out your life. No other country in the broader European sphere offers that to Americans so cleanly. Now, Tbilisi, the capital, is where most expats land first, and it's genuinely impressive. It's got this incredible mix of old and new. Ancient churches sit next to rooftop bars. You've got neighborhoods that look like they belong in a fairy tale right next to modern coffee shops with fast Wi-Fi and specialty brews. The food is fantastic. Georgian cuisine is one of those cuisines that people genuinely fall in love with. The people are famously warm and hospitable, and the cost of living is still very manageable. In Tbilisi, you're looking at roughly $800 to $1,000 a month for a comfortable life. Real apartment, good food, going out, not counting every lari. Move to smaller towns outside the capital, and you can bring that down to $700 or $850 comfortably. $50,000 over $900 a month. That's about 4 to 5 years of real runway. Solid. Real. Not a fantasy number. So what's the catch? Two things, and they're both honest ones. First, the winters. If you're coming from somewhere warm, or if you're someone whose body doesn't love cold weather anymore, Tbilisi winters can be genuinely rough. It gets cold, it gets gray, it snows. This isn't tropical retirement weather. The summers are beautiful, but the winters demand a certain tolerance. Second, and this one is harder to brush off, Georgia sits in a geopolitically sensitive region. It's a small country nestled between Russia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. The country has had real conflicts in its recent history with Russia, and while daily life in Tbilisi feels completely normal and modern and safe, that background geopolitical tension is real. The currency, the lari, can also fluctuate based on regional pressures in ways that can affect your purchasing power in ways you can't fully predict. That doesn't make Georgia a bad choice. It makes it a choice you go into with your eyes open. The lifestyle, the culture, the food, the ease of entry, all of that is genuinely excellent. But the risk profile is different from, say, a country in Latin America with no geopolitical exposure. You have to decide how much that matters to you. Georgia is easy to enter, genuinely affordable, and surprisingly livable. But it's not risk-free for the long term. Eyes open, and it could be a great fit. Country number 5, Cambodia. Now let's shift continents entirely. Because if what you're optimizing for is pure affordability, if you want to stretch that $50,000 as far as it will possibly go, then Southeast Asia is where you need to be looking. And within Southeast Asia, there is one country that consistently sits at the bottom of the cost of living chart: Cambodia. I know, for a lot of people, Cambodia doesn't immediately come to mind as a retirement destination. It has a complicated history, and some of that reputation lingers even though the country has changed enormously over the last 2 decades. But the expat community there is real, it's established, and the people who are living there on limited budgets are genuinely making it work. The city that makes the most sense for this specific situation is Siem Reap. You probably know it as the city near Angkor Wat, the ancient temple complex that's one of the most breathtaking archaeological sites on Earth. But beyond the temples, Siem Reap has developed into a genuinely expat-friendly city, with a relaxed pace, good restaurants, markets, and a social scene built around people who are there intentionally, not just passing through. Cost of living in Siem Reap runs about $700 to $900 a month for a comfortable existence. Real apartment, good food, a tuk-tuk when you need it, going out a few times a week. If you went to Phnom Penh, the capital, that number climbs to $900 to $1,200. Still affordable by most global standards, but noticeably higher. At $800 a month in Siem Reap, $50,000 lasts you just over 5 years. Closer to 5.5 or even 6 if you're intentional about it. That is the longest raw runway on this list in terms of pure math. And the visa situation? Cambodia has historically been one of the more flexible countries in the region for retirement extensions. The retirement visa, is available for people over 55 and can be renewed annually. It's not the most elegant system in the world, the rules have shifted over the years, but the basic framework exists and people are using it successfully. So what's the trap? Healthcare. This is the one that you cannot minimize or talk your way around. Healthcare in Cambodia, outside of a handful of private international clinics in Phnom Penh, is genuinely limited. For everyday things, a cold, a minor infection, a twisted ankle, you're fine. But for anything serious, for surgery, for specialist care, for a real medical emergency, you are almost certainly going to be looking at medical evacuation to Thailand, Bangkok specifically. And that's not a scare tactic. That's just what the expat community there does because it's the honest answer. If you're younger, relatively healthy, and you're willing to carry good international health insurance that covers emergency evacuation, Cambodia is a real and viable option. If you have ongoing medical needs, or you're not comfortable being far from quality healthcare, it moves down your personal list regardless of the cost savings. Cambodia saves you more money than almost anywhere else, but that savings comes with a real sacrifice in medical quality. Know that going in. Country number 4, Ecuador. From Southeast Asia, let's come back to the Western Hemisphere, and into territory that starts to feel more complete, more like a real long-term answer and less like a trade-off. Ecuador. The first thing you need to know is something that matters enormously when you're living on savings. Ecuador uses the US dollar, the actual dollar, which means zero currency risk for an American living there. What $1,000 buys you today is what $1,000 buys you next year. The exchange rate cannot eat your savings. That is a bigger deal than most people realize until they've lived somewhere with currency volatility eating away at everything they worked for. Ecuador also has a formalized retirement visa, the pensioner visa, designed specifically for people with a reliable monthly income around $800 a month. Social Security, a pension, rental income, anything consistent qualifies. If you have that, you get proper legal residency with a real path to long-term stay. That kind of security matters when you're building a life somewhere new. The city most people talk about is Cuenca, beautiful, colonial, and popular. But popular means expensive now. $1,200 to $1,500 a month. That burns through your runway too fast for this strategy to work properly. The city I want to point you toward is Loja. Smaller, quieter, significantly cheaper, $900 to $1,100 a month. A university city with real energy and culture, surrounded by mountains, with a fantastic climate because of the altitude. It gives you everything Cuenca offers without the inflated price tag. At $1,000 a month, $50,000 gives you about 4 to 4.5 years. Solid runway, especially if you're waiting for Social Security to kick in or another income stream to mature. What's the trap? Security and bureaucracy. Security varies significantly by region. Loja is generally considered one of the safer cities in the country, but you must research specifically, not assume. The bureaucracy is slow and patience testing. Get a good local attorney, and the whole process becomes far more manageable. Ecuador works, but only if you choose the right city. Country number 3, Vietnam. Okay, we're in the top 3 now, and the gap between 3 and 7 is significant, because the next 3 countries aren't just affordable, they're genuinely excellent places to live. Not good for the price, just good. Vietnam is number 3, and I want to be honest with you. Vietnam might have been number 1 if it weren't for one specific problem that I'm going to get to in a minute. Because in almost every other category, Vietnam is extraordinary. The food alone is reason enough. Vietnamese cuisine is one of the great culinary traditions of the world, and you get to eat it fresh, at street level, for almost nothing, every single day. The infrastructure in the major cities has developed dramatically over the last decade. The internet is fast. The people are welcoming. The culture is rich and layered and endlessly interesting. And the cost of living, even in a genuinely comfortable lifestyle, stays very manageable. The city I want to focus on for this scenario is Da Nang. Not Ho Chi Minh City, though HCMC is incredible, because Da Nang hits a balance that's harder to find elsewhere. It's on the coast, it's got beaches, the old town of Hoi An is literally 30 minutes away, which is one of the most beautiful small towns in all of Asia. The city itself is modern, clean, and well organized, and the cost of living there runs about $800 to $1,000 a month for a genuinely comfortable life. Real apartment, good food, some going out, not counting every dong. Ho Chi Minh City will run you more, $1,000 to $1,300, mostly because the city is bigger, faster, and the international lifestyle there carries a price premium. At $900 a month in Da Nang, $50,000 gives you between 4.5 and 5.5 years. That's a real substantial runway with an excellent quality of life attached to it. So what's the problem? What's the trap that pushed Vietnam to number 3 instead of number 1? The visa situation. Vietnam does not have a true long-term retirement visa. Not in the way Panama does, or Ecuador does, or the Philippines does. There's no official program that says, you're a foreign retiree, here's your legal residency pathway. What Vietnam has instead is a collection of workarounds that people use. Tourist visa extensions, e-visas, visa runs, business visas, sponsored long-stay arrangements. And these workarounds do work. Thousands of expats use them successfully every year. But they require planning, they require attention, they require staying on top of your paperwork and sometimes leaving the country briefly to reset things. It's not impossible. It's not even that difficult if you're organized about it. But it's not a clean system. And when you're building a life somewhere, you want a clean system. You want to know that your legal right to stay is solid, not contingent on a workaround that could change with new regulations. Vietnam is one of the best lifestyle options on this planet for the money. The food, the culture, the coast, the people, all of it is genuinely excellent. But you need a plan for the visa before you commit. Go in with your eyes open and a good local advisor, and Vietnam becomes an extraordinary place to spend some of the best years of your life. Country number 2. Philippines. We're down to the final 2, the 2 countries that offer the most complete picture for an American with $50,000 trying to build a real, livable, sustainable chapter abroad. Number 2 is the Philippines. If you're American, this one deserves a long look, because there might not be another country on Earth where Americans adapt as naturally and quickly. Think about it. English is an official language of the Philippines. Not just spoken by educated people in business settings, widely, genuinely spoken everywhere. Menus, street signs, TV shows, everyday conversation. English. You land at the airport, get in a cab, order food, talk to your landlord, navigate the healthcare system, all in English. That's an enormous quality of life difference that people underestimate until they've spent a week trying to navigate daily life somewhere they don't speak the language. Then there's the cultural familiarity. The Philippines has deep American cultural influence from its history. American music, food brands, movies, and TV, woven into daily life in a way that makes the transition feel less like a dramatic leap and more like a soft landing. And then there's the retirement visa, the SRRV, the Special Resident Retirees Visa, is one of the more established retirement visa programs in Southeast Asia. Administered by the Philippines Retirement Authority, it gives you actual legal residency status with real benefits. No re-entry permits needed, foreign currency conversion at special rates, and more. The program has different tiers depending on your age and deposit requirements. Verify current specifics, but the framework is real, functional, and has been used successfully by thousands of American retirees. For cities, 2 options. Dumaguete is the budget pick, a smaller university city on Negros Oriental with a real expat community. Cost of living runs $1,000 to $1,200 a month. Quieter, cleaner than the big cities, surrounded by nature, with decent healthcare for its size. Cebu is the step up, a proper major city with better infrastructure, international hospitals, more restaurants and entertainment, and a bigger expat community. You're paying more, $1,200 to $1,400, but you get more. Compared to what you'd pay for that quality of city life in the West, it's still extraordinary value. At $1,100 to $1,200 a month, $50,000 gives you 3 to 4 years of runway. That's shorter than other countries on this list. I want to be honest about that. But the strategic play is different here. The Philippines works best as a bridge. You establish residency, live well while waiting for Social Security, rental income, or another stream to mature. Once modest monthly income flows in, the math completely changes. What's the trap? Infrastructure outside major population centers is genuinely uneven. Power outages happen. Internet reliability varies. Rural roads can be rough. Healthcare in Cebu and Manila is solid, genuinely solid. But step outside those centers and quality drops. The country spans over 7,000 islands, creating logistical complexity that doesn't exist in a continental country. But for Americans specifically, the language, the culture, the retirement visa, the healthcare in the right cities, the Philippines offers the smoothest transition on this list. Least friction, fastest adaptation. Set it up right as a bridge strategy, and it can absolutely be the foundation of a sustainable, long-term life. Country number 1, Panama. And here we are, number 1. If you've been researching countries, running numbers, trying to find the place where everything lines up, you may have already guessed this was coming. Panama. Because Panama isn't just cheap. Panama isn't just visa-friendly. Panama has, over decades, built the most comprehensive retirement infrastructure in the world. Not by accident, deliberately, with specific laws, specific programs, and a vision of attracting foreign retirees and making their lives work. Here's why this is different from everything else on this list. First, the Pensionado visa. Any pension income, Social Security, government pension, private pension, of at least $1,000 a month qualifies you. And it isn't just a piece of paper. Real, tangible discounts across daily life. 25% off airline tickets, 50% off hotel stays, 30% off public transportation, 20% off medical consultations, 15 to 20% off restaurant meals and prescriptions. Legally mandated, widely honored. They affect your actual monthly spending in ways that effectively lower your cost of living beyond what base numbers suggest. Second, Panama uses US dollars. No currency risk, no exchange rate math, no watching savings erode. $1 is $1 every day. Third, the healthcare. Panama City has some of the best private healthcare in Latin America. Johns Hopkins affiliated hospitals, JCI accredited facilities, internationally trained doctors, world-class care at a fraction of US costs. Fourth, Panama City is a world-class city. Skyscrapers, metro system, international cuisine, reliable utilities, fast internet, urban amenities at a high level. Now, here's where strategy matters, because Panama City is not where this math works for someone with $50,000. Panama City costs $1,500 to $2,000 a month minimum. That burns through $50,000 in 2.5 to 3 years. Too fast. But Panama is not just Panama City. Boquete, a mountain town 6 hours from the capital, famous for coffee and a spring-like climate year-round. Costs run $800 to $1,000 a month. Beautiful scenery, active expat community, excellent weather. Coronado, a coastal town an hour from Panama City. Beach lifestyle, lower costs, easy day trips to the capital when needed. Pedasi, a small fishing village on the Azuero Peninsula. Quietest option, least expensive. For someone who wants to genuinely slow down, it's extraordinary. Outside Panama City, at $800 to $1,000 a month, $50,000 buys 5 to 6 years of runway. With Pensionado discounts, the dollar economy, a US-style legal system, and one of the most stable political environments in Central America. If you have Social Security coming in, even $800 or $1,000 a month, the math stops being about runway and starts being about infinity. Monthly income plus low cost minus Pensionado discounts, and suddenly you're not spending down savings at all. What's the trap? Panama City. The capital will eat your budget alive. Restaurants, high-end apartments, bars, imported goods. It adds up fast. Tell yourself you'll move to Boquete eventually, and you'll burn money you can't get back. The decision has to be made upfront. Leave the capital. And when you do, the most retiree-friendly country on Earth becomes mathematically perfect for exactly this situation. That's why Panama is number 1. Every country on this list passes the math. Albania, Georgia, Cambodia, Ecuador, Vietnam, Philippines, Panama. You can live comfortably in any of them on $50,000. But here's what matters. $50,000 is not retirement. It's a runway. 3 to 6 years where you're not trapped in a job you hate. Time to think clearly, let income streams mature, build something without financial panic driving every decision. The people who actually stay long-term all have something beyond cheap rent. Social Security, a pension, remote work, rental income. Something coming in monthly that means you're not watching a clock on your savings. Write this down. $50,000 doesn't retire you. It relocates you to a place where your income finally works. But the math is only half this decision, because I've seen people run perfect numbers, move, and leave within 6 months. Not because the math was wrong, because they were miserable. The language barrier, the cultural friction, the loneliness. No cost of living savings compensates for that. Day after day, it compounds into something unbearable. Which is why where you'll actually feel comfortable matters just as much as what it costs. And that's exactly what I covered in my last video. The 10 best English-speaking islands where retirees are planting roots, staying for years, and actually thriving. No language barrier, no cultural whiplash, just a real human transition into a life that finally makes sense. Go watch it. Make a real decision with all the information.